Today's workshop was basically for us to have the presentation of the final version of the strategy for Seychelles AfCFTA implementation and ensure that the views and consideration from the stakeholders have been well incorporated so that we can then validate this strategy and then from there start the process of implementation. But like I said in the presentation that was done, before we start the implementation, we would have to seek the approval of the government, and that is the Cabinet of Ministers, for them to endorse the strategy, and then from there we will move on with this. Seychelles is indeed a small island, yes, but we are connected with Africa at the end of the day. So we form part of the African continent, and we have already signed and ratified the African Free Trade Agreement. So in a way, we have to be implementing the agreement, and part of implementation involves a strategy. So having the strategy will help us to be able to guide our way forward and be able to know what our priority is, and from there do the implementation process. In my perspective, the private sectors tend to benefit because they are the ones who are the main driver behind this agreement. Okay, the agreement is not, like Andrew said during the workshop, the agreement is not only for the private sector, it's for all Africans, and Seychelles is part of Africa. But the private sector will benefit because they will be able to source markets for their products, source market to import items for them to be able to further produce goods and export it to the African continent. Because at the moment we are exporting to Europe, other countries, but very little to Africa. So this strategy and exporting to Africa and even importing from Africa will be able to boost trade between Seychelles and Africa and improve intra-African trade. This is my perspective of it. From this workshop, I believe we all agree that there are still work to be done on the strategy, certain inputs that needs to be added to it to make it a living document. And from there, once the experts have finalized the document, we will then, like I've said, send it to Cabinet of Ministers with a relevant cabinet memo for approval. Once this is done, we will then do the needful for sensitization, getting involvement of all the stakeholders, because we want that strategy to be a living document. Like I've said initially, we don't want it to remain on the shelf. We want to ensure that everybody is part and parcel of its implementation, and Seychelles is seen to be implementing the recommendations from the strategy.